roll right into our my intro. So
Rolling.
rolling.
Rolling. Is that like a beer commercial? Rolling.
Yeah, it was
Right.
Oh, right.
You're thinking about the Rainier ad from
Oh, right, yeah.
Rainier.
I thought that was a pretty great commercial, too.
That was a great commercial
Yeah.
for a great beer.
It was good at the time. I haven't had one in a long time.
I can't do beer. It's probably my biggest weakness running in a rural district. 'Cause I cannot do beer.
You just have to hold one. You don't actually
Well,
have
it's
to
it's
drink
one
it.
it's my biggest weakness too. On the other side.
All right, grab a drink, buckle up, and prepare to question your life choices because we're just a bunch of handful of Montana guys trying to make sense of this madness. This is Beer Buds in the Big Sky, brought to you by the Montana Tap House, where the beer is cold and the takes are hot. Joining us tonight, Idaho House candidate Kaylee Peterson. We get into policy, politics, and whatever else comes up. Because around here, nothing's off the table. We're missing a few guys tonight. They won't be able to make it because they ended up getting a group rate at the Betty Ford Clinic. So we're pretty proud of them. But
Good
in
for them.
studio tonight, we have a guest. We have John Repke.
Hi, Kevin. Do I need to say more?
Yes.
You do, yeah. You're introducing.
What am I supposed to
No, you're letting-
tell what I'm thinking about these days? or something,
You're letting
or-
folks know who your voice is.
Okay, well, this is my voice. I dabbled a little bit in politics, ran for Public Service Commission and for state auditor the last couple cycles, and I guess that makes me somewhat of an expert. But I didn't win like Mike did.
And Mike Jopek.
Hey, Kevin. Hey, John. Good to see you guys. Welcome back to the court, folks. We're deep into the Western Woods today, where the air is thin, but the political egos are thicker than Great Falls steaks. You know, I talked about the Royal Court a little bit last time with King Gianforte and Duke Danes and Viceroy Zinke, and I just wanted to mention to folks that, you know, there's more folks in this court. You know, we also have the court jester, who must be Dr. O, and he's looking for a win, but mostly just looking for a lost rodeo with his hat. And then we have the court dwarf, and clearly that must be Little Aaron. You know, he's got the Zinke Viceroy approval, and he's looking for a way to victory. Just don't ask him where that $1 million of gold is coming from. You know, and then we got the court troubadour, who's the shoplifter Bodner. And, you know, he's singing the ballad of bipartisanship by clenching a bag of stolen Democratic staff and data. It's a bold strategy, raiding the neighborhood's pantry and then asking for a harmonization chorus. And then always there's the groom of the stool, the Duchess of Data Mining, Jacobson. And, you know, she sold us out and sent all that data over to the administration. And, you know, now she's looking for a mop to clean up her mess. But, folks, we got a real great show for you tonight. And we're here for you, and let us introduce Kaylee Peterson. Kaylee's coming to us from Idaho. She's probably the most inspirational woman in Idaho politics right now, clearly the bravest. Kaylee's a sixth-generation Idahoan whose family roots are deeper than the Boise National Cedar Forest. You know, while most politicians spent 2023 in high-rise offices, Kaylee was finishing her college degree at the Western Idaho College, raising 2 kids, and for the third straight time running for the U.S. House of Representatives District Idaho 1. She's president of the Idaho Young Democrats and architect of the Question the Democrats town hall strategy, which basically involves walking into a full room of skeptics and saying, "Have at it." You know, that's why I think she's the most brave person in Idaho politics right now, and she's here to talk about things like reproductive rights and protecting our public lands from being sold to the highest bidder, and why she thinks that Idaho's ready for, you know, someone like her to kind of help us. So, look, folks, let's welcome the pride of the Canyon County and the woman who makes unwinnable districts looks very winnable. So, Kaylee Peterson, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I wish I could take you on the road to introduce me at all of our events. I think maybe it would make our Republican town halls seem a little friendlier.
I love the idea of the Question a Democrat forums or town halls that you're hosting. How's that been going?
It's my favorite. It's kind of the pride of my campaign, especially because my entire history has always been being involved in politics at the local level and debate. So I'm a speech and debate kid. I did it all through high school. When I went back to college in my 30s, I jumped back in again. I have 9 national titles. I actually won nationals at my last tournament before stepping down to focus on the campaign trail. And so going into these rural communities that look a lot like my hometown and my family, it was really easy being able to say, hey, come question the Democrat. Tell me what worries you about the D next to my name, and let's talk about what you actually want to see from government. And I was so surprised at how well it went, because what I ended up getting were a lot of Republican farmers that hadn't heard from any politicians locally or hadn't seen from their congressman in over a decade, who really just wanted to know if I was going to increase their taxes and what I was going to do about conditional land permits and whether or not I was going to protect public access, which are all very common sense pieces of legislation that we did have. And it was funny because when I started the race, my opponent had never done a public town hall, not once in the entire 8 years that he'd been in office. And we started getting so much press and so much attendance. We were having 50, 60, 75 people show up to these town halls. So then I went to Lewiston and Fulcher went to Lewiston. And then I went to Grangeville and he went to Grangeville. And I went to Kamiah. And so he just followed me around the state. So we knew that we were making him actually work for it for the first time. But my absolute piece de resistance was when Dorothy Moon and the Idaho GOP sent me a cease and desist letter for hosting town halls at Republican voters, trying to, I think, scare me off of inviting Republicans specifically to come out, which thankfully our Constitution protects that. So it's been a great experience. And I've been able to show people I'm not the enemy. I'm just another Idahoan.
No,
Right.
you're doing the exact same thing that we tell Democrats to do all the time. Go to the places you're not invited. You know, talk to the real people on the streets. And, you know, your opponent, what's his name, Fulcher or something like that? Isn't he? He's like known as the ghost of District 1. You know, the debate dodger. Nobody's actually seen him. He just spends all this time in D.C. kind of, you know, doing the inside politics. But, you know, your grandfather, you guys are like 6th generation, right? Your grandfather still has a farm that you guys have farmed for 6 generations and that kind of stuff. And I would think those kind of real tangible values resonate with old-time folks in Idaho.
Yeah, it's kind of, I get to be in both worlds. My family always joked, because when I was growing up, I was always, they called me the little politician or the little lawyer, because I've always loved wearing pantsuits and talking about policy issues. But the rest of my family, I mean, I'm 6th generation. My family homesteaded the North Eagle foothills, so I live a mile down the street from my grandfather. My great-grandparents' old house is just down the street from us. My mom lives a stone's throw from us. We are the last bit of undeveloped land, so we're the last piece in Eagle that still drive cattle through. We've got some kind of new relatives taking some of the old farmland and using it to grow kind of new crops and new things. So I mean, I know what it's like to be a native Idahoan and to see all of this growth in about rural Idaho without using kind of the far-right mask of social culture issues and making that top of form.
Yeah. So what did your parents or your grandparents say when they found out you were kind of entering into politics? I mean, that's, you know, that doesn't always go over so well. They must have had some reservations about you doing it, and now they're seeing how you perform and how you engage people, and suddenly they must be like change of mind and must be a little proud.
Yeah, it's the funniest experience because the rest of my family are all the quietest people you'll ever meet. Like, you know, you don't know what my grandfather's thinking ever. He's just kind of former military electric boat employee and old school Idaho farmer. So very stoic. And when they asked me to run for this congressional race and I accepted and I knew that this is what I was going to do, I called my grandpa first and I said, hey, Grandpa, just wanted to let you know that I'm running for Congress. And he laughed. He just laughed hysterically and he said, of course you are. I wouldn't expect anything less.
Oh, that's great.
And he's been so supportive ever since. So It's been really special being able to take that. I think the values that my grandpa saw growing up in Idaho, which were this kind of mutual respect and your authenticity and the way you show up for your community and not being how we judge somebody in this state, and being able to stand up for those values in this kind of field for our state, I think makes him proud. And for me, that's a really special thing to share with him.
Yeah. What years do you know if your grandpa was working on the electric boat? That's interesting.
Yeah, so I actually have three grandfathers that all worked at Electric Boat in Groton, Connecticut. Between my dad's family is Connecticut, my mom's family is Idaho. I have no idea what he worked on. He still to this day won't tell me anything about his time working for, because they're a big government contractor. Right. So I know the only little evidence I have of any projects he worked on was, I think, his first autopilot system for submarines, but other than that, he's very mum's the word, so I have no idea.
Yeah. No, that's a big thing. My dad was in the Merchant Marines, and he was a chief engineer, and so he ended up being on one of the first nuclear cargo ships they had. I think it was called the Savannah, and he ended up traveling to some of these meanest places on the planet, you know, like Iran and through the Straits and that kind of stuff. And it's interesting, and so when I hear folks talking about things like the electric boat, it catches my attention.
Oh yeah, no, it's really special, and I think especially right now, so many of the top line issues relate, because my dad's family escaped the USSR after the Bolshevik Revolution. So actually, my first kind of relative in this side went from electric boat in Moscow to the electric boat. He defected and went to electric boat in Groton, Connecticut, and then they flee Kyiv, which is now modern day Kyiv, Ukraine. So having that kind of connection there, and then also all of the military experience, and I think it just kind of shows, for me, I hold a lot of value in people who sign up to serve for their country and military experience, but also, I don't know, I think it just ties me to the things that are actually important in this country and trying to protect them.
Yeah, I would think that my impression always is that the folks in D.C. don't really understand the West. You know, there's a big gap between what happens in D.C. and what actually happens on the streets of Montana or in the streets of Idaho. And so you're coming from the western part, you've grown up in the West, public lands are clearly important. And, you know, what kind of values will you espouse when you talk to, when you get up to D.C. or when you talk to the constituents and you talk about land management and survival of identity in rural communities? And, how do you talk about that kind of stuff?
It means so much to the people in my district, because when I go to areas around the Frank Wilderness, the people in those communities remember when Frank Church was serving this district, and remembered when they had somebody back in DC that was actually advocating for what life looked like here. I remember, because when Frank Church originally tried to preserve the federal wilderness, the East Coast congressmen didn't understand why it was so important. They had never been to the West. They didn't understand the state. So Frank Church actually brought these congressmen out to the district. He got Jimmy Carter and his family to rough down the river of no return. And in doing so, they were able to understand how important our wildlands are, how important properly managing these lands are. And we haven't had an actual advocate like that in such a long time. When my opponent was asked about, because my opponent's big on reverting federal lands back to state control, and that the Idaho should manage it. Idaho knows what's best, but Idaho doesn't have the infrastructure, the agency, or the budget to in any way properly manage these lands. And we know what happened. It'll go to privately leased energy industries who will clear cut and prevent any kind of public access. So for me, when my opponent got asked, what are we going to do? Keep public lands in public hands? What bills do you support? He said, nobody has a solution. I haven't read those bills. I don't know the details. To me, that's his entire job. So for me, I'm able to work with our forest service. I'm able to work with these federal agencies that are managing it. I'm able to work in the logging industry and the mining industry, and where there's compromise and what kind of legislative solutions are there. What kind of budgets or staffing do that they need so that they can properly manage the lands in a way where we can be handling drought mitigation or preventing wildfires in the state And it just takes somebody actually caring enough to bring the stakeholders to the table and then willing to invest in the agencies that are managing the lands right now. And that means bringing local stakeholders to the table as well. So that's where I think my specialty is. I'm not trying to play one card or the other. I'm trying to get everybody at the table so that we can actually draw up solutions that aren't right now being discussed in DC.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, they talk about make America great again, and people like Frank Church made America great with the work that he did to protect wilderness areas and public lands. And, you know, it's just to think that that legacy is large, well, at least forgotten by a substantial portion of the Idaho population at this point is just really unfortunate, because that's what made Idaho the place that it is. And the same is true in Montana here with some of the people that we had working on public lands and wilderness. But you have a huge district. I mean, how far is it from north to south? Is it 500 miles or so? What?
Yeah, it's 500 miles. So it goes from the Canadian border all the way down to Nevada. So actually, most people in my district don't realize how big it is. People in North Idaho think I'm strictly a North Idaho candidate. People down in West Ada and Canyon think I just cover the southwest corner. But yeah, it goes from the Canadian border all the way down to Nevada. Our biggest county, which houses Boise, which is our capital and one of our only kind of big urban areas, is actually cut in half. And
Right.
so even though I live in Ada County, none of Boise is in my district, only West Ada, which is some of the most conservative furthest right voters in the state. So it's an interesting district. It takes about, depending on traffic, it can be between 10 and a half to 12 hours to get from one end to the
Yeah.
other. So I just hit 100,000 miles that
Are
I've put on my car in the last 4 years just campaigning in my state. So it's a massive district,
Wow.
but it's beautiful.
Is there any, are there issues that are more important to one end versus the other, or do you see it as, I mean, it's all fairly rural, but maybe more agricultural in the south? I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, well, it's difficult because it's almost like four different states all combined into one, not just because of the geography and we have the mountains and the Palouse and the desert. We have all of these different terrains, but also the communities and their makeups are incredibly difficult. So, you know, where I live in Ada County, we have a ton of school choice. We've got hospitals and schools, but in other areas of my state, you know, we have underfunded rural education. They don't have an option to send their kids anywhere else, and they're operating on razor thin budgets, and the cuts to SRS are meeting $100 million cuts to how they, you know, protect their infrastructure and educate their children and make sure that rural healthcare clinics are open for the populace. The issues change drastically, whether it's farmers and rural subsidies and USDA grants, whether it's affordable housing. Ada County has experienced crazy population growth, as has much of my district, where the housing market went from $183,000 for a single family home to there are areas of my state where you can't find a house for under 1.2 million. And then the workforce and the families and just working class everyday people are all of a sudden priced out of the area that they've lived their whole lives. So for me, I think the one perspective that I'm really glad I bring to this race that I think America needs far more of is somebody who truly comes from a working class background. You know, my mom was a single mom, worked 2 to 3 jobs at a time to make sure that we could make ends meet. My husband and I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together when we started our family, and I became a stay-at-home mom mainly because we couldn't afford childcare in my area. And I'm really grateful that, you know, I was able to grow up with a ranch house on old family land, but I know what issues actually look like for working class families, especially in a rural district like Idaho, where the average annual income is $37,000 a year. And bringing that perspective to DC with a bunch of polished politicians who are making 6 figures and, you know, grew up in penthouses with trust funds, it's an important perspective to bring to rural districts.
It sounds like you got the pulse of the people on the ground, not like your opponent, the ghost of District 1, who won't even show up to a debate. I think last time you had to debate an empty chair or something like that because he wouldn't even show up. And I pulled up some of his voting record, and it looks like he voted against the Pact Act, which, provides health care to veterans exposed to toxic burn pits, voted against the bipartisan infrastructure law. But he always shows up for all the photo ops and all that kind of stuff like a traditional Republican. But I got to think that the, veterans are probably a large portion of your district as well. And, they might, be upset that somebody's voting against the Pact Act.
Oh, absolutely. I love working with our veterans, and it's something that hits close to home. My father was a Marine who went into the Army National Guard, served 2 tours in Iraq, and just around the time that Russ Fulcher had beaten a cancer diagnosis and then voted down the Pact Act, my father passed away rapidly to a really aggressive cancer that was linked to toxic burn pit exposure. And so I'm dealing, I'm at my father's deathbed at a VA hospital in Lexington, Kentucky, watching one of the most privileged politicians in my state vote against veterans' interests. And then just in the last 12 months, we watched as this administration took collective bargaining rights away from federal employees, which include our VA employees, and are talking now about privatizing veterans' health care when we are already struggling to provide even a basis of foundational care for the people who sign up for everything. So work with our veterans is really important, especially in Idaho. I believe 30% of our federal employees are veterans. 50% of those are disabled veterans. So it's a community that obviously every Idahoan wants to respect. But Russ Fulcher's not bragging about how he's taking away funding from these agencies. So that's my job, is to go to these communities and say, this is what Russ Fulcher is doing to make your life harder and to take away rights from the people who sign up to serve their country. But yeah, Russ Fulcher has probably the worst voting record that I've seen of most of the congressmen back in DC.
That's saying a lot because there's some bad ones.
Yeah.
But I got to think that people are ready for change, and I sense that when I talk to even moderate Republicans. I was at an event the other day, and there was 3 Republicans at a Democratic event, and 2 of them told me this is no longer about Democrats versus Republicans, and they're worried. They can kind of see the writing on the wall. And when I look at what's happened in the last 30 elections since the special elections, since all the elections 25, Democrats swept every one of them, 30 of them in a row or something. And so I got to think that people are ready for change, and you got to think that change is coming into rural places like Idaho as well, that you're feeling that on the ground, that there's enthusiasm and people are excited that you're visiting and saying things, talking to them, and active, and they want to help somehow.
Oh, absolutely. It's really interesting because I think a lot of things all happened at once. So obviously in rural districts, we've had a Republican supermajority. And so in my district, it is Republicans versus Democrats. But there's also this kind of cultural awakening where we realize that the vast majority of politicians representing us have no idea what life actually looks like for the vast majority of working class families. One of my favorite statistics is less than 2% of elected officials have a working class background. And yet they're the ones drafting up a tax system that is the biggest burden on middle class families and small businesses. They're the ones creating loopholes for monopolized corporate industries to take advantage of rural districts. So it's exciting because I think there's an opportunity, especially because this isn't my first run or my second. I've been on the ground in this district building relationships and trust and getting to know our Grange Halls and our VFWs and Republicans across Idaho who know me not as just some politician that's on their TV screen, but as somebody who's in their community trying to understand the issues and then find solutions. So at the same time where we have this reckoning with the right versus the left, we also have a reckoning of anti-establishment candidates that are willing to put in real grassroots work and show up for communities in ways politicians haven't in a long time, at least not without a photo op.
It's neat to hear you got active Grange Halls still. We had active Grange Halls in New Hampshire way back 30, 40 years ago. But I got a feeling that the folks in D.C. are going to be like, Grange Hall, I'm not quite sure if I know what that is.
Oh,
I went
and
to
the
one
funniest
outside
part
of
is the
Thompson
most
Falls.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was active, but it was the old Grange
Yeah.
Hall. But so, what's the price of diesel in western Idaho now?
Oh, geez. It's over $4. I think it's right around $4.19 right now. I mean, it's atrocious. And one of the things I like to bring Idahoans is that the Idaho State Legislature and the GOP actually passed anti-price gouging legislation against anti-price gouging legislation. So now it's legal in the state of Idaho to actually investigate price gouging on oil prices in the state. And when people were blaming Biden for Russia's invasion on Ukraine and the cost of a oil barrel, they're all of a sudden being really mum over Trump's invasion on Iran and the effects it's having on gas prices in the state.
Yeah, no new wars. I remember that. No new wars.
Yeah. No new stupid wars.
Yeah. How about data centers? Are you guys getting inundated with some of this data center conversation that's causing so much concern to the neighbors and the homeowners across the state of Montana? Are you guys getting some of that there in Idaho as well?
I think it's about to hit the mainstream conversation because we have one going in Cuna, which is in West Ada County, the other side of the Treasure Valley from where I live. But it doesn't seem like the communities are fully aware of the impact that this is going to have. And especially when we have almost no snowpack right now. We had one of the driest winters we've seen in the state, and we're looking at serious drought measures. I mean, my local Farmers Union Canal just dropped the water allowance to 80% of what it was last year. So I think data centers are going to become a big topic of conversation. But it's obvious why they pick Idaho. There's no regulations. There's no fact. Idaho just allowed them free use of our entire community.
Oh, it's hard. Like in Montana, the amount of water data can use for cooling purpose and that kind of stuff is just massive amounts of water, unheard of amounts of water. And you got to think that the irrigators are like, well, I don't know if that's a good idea. And then the amount of power that they use, they're talking about more power being used for data than is currently used by every homeowner in a business in the state of Montana.
Right.
They need that much power. And it's like, that sounds like it might increase our rates a little bit.
Well, and it has. I've seen local communities where the data center is currently going. First of all, there are insane noise pollution. So there's constant pulsing, like electronic noises that you can hear from miles around. But then on top of that, you've got the water usage that they're allowing, but also our power grid was barely functioning as it was. People are seeing their power bill going up 900% or $900 from a $250 power bill because we allowed these data centers to come in and not pay for any of the power that they're using because of the jobs it was going to create or the opportunities it was going to create, which I still haven't seen any evidence of that. But we need somebody back in DC who's willing to at least hold these people even a fraction of accountable, who isn't in the pocket of a lot of these tech bros. Because I know most of our congressional delegation is getting quite a bit of money from a lot of the foundations that are pushing these data centers.
Oh, yeah. And the average guy on the street is just like, well, okay, I got to pay my power bills. I got to suddenly pay for this fuel. And my health insurance went through the damn roof because those Congress people really stuck it to us. Like in Montana, there's some people are seeing like 70% increases, thousands of dollars extra per year. And it's not just like young people, it's old people too. I was looking at my mom's supplemental insurance. That sucker went up $800 per year. You know, she's 89, fixed income, supplemental insurance. And, you know, it's like nobody in Congress looking out for anybody, it seems, except themselves.
And people often ask, how do we expect to pay? When I talk about social services and making sure education and healthcare and all of these things are cut, people go, well, how do you plan on paying for that? And I think it's hysterical that we had Doge out here talking about cutting wasteful spending and finding fraud. And they're looking at these tiny rural essential services while completely ignoring the fact that we use taxpayer dollars to pay almost $760 billion in indirect and direct subsidies just to the fossil fuel industry. have an investigation into United Healthcare for $80 billion of annual Medicaid fraud. We have some of these huge monopolized industries that are sucking hundreds of billions of dollars, and yet nobody at DC thinks that we need to hold them a little bit accountable or see where this money is going. So there are very easy ways, if we actually audited where our federal tax dollars are going, to make sure that really essential services, especially in rural districts like Idaho's first congressional district, if somebody's actually willing to do the work and hold these giant corporations accountable without taking money from them.
It doesn't seem like anybody in Congress is looking out for anybody. I mean, they're letting all these crazy tariffs go into play. They're letting the administration spend $40 billion on Argentine beef, where there's beef that's very good in Idaho. They're just selling out all the farmers, fertilizers through the damn roof right now. You got to think that the farmers and the cattlemen and the timber guys and the rest of these guys must be thinking in their head, well, maybe I should look at something else a little bit right now because my livelihood depends on something changing.
That's exactly it. Well, and my opponent is the only thing he ever really talks about publicly is logging and all of his investments into expanding the logging industry in Idaho. But here's the part he's not saying out loud, which is that they haven't invested in expanding that infrastructure. We don't even have the markets or the buyers for expanding the logging industry. What he really wants to do is gut any kind of permitting or regulatory process, allow a free-for-all for any energy industry that wants to privately lease the land with no oversight and actually no markets in which we can build revenue for local counties. So I think locals appreciate somebody that understands these issues and is common sense. I'm not anti-logging or anti-mining, but I want to make sure we're protecting public access, we're protecting local soil and water quality, and we want to make sure that we have the infrastructure to actually produce the amount of revenue that they're bragging about being able to produce right now. So yeah, locals see the BS, especially when they understand it firsthand, what's happening locally. Trying to get that message out to other people in the state who aren't as familiar with that issue is the really important part of our campaign.
Well, Kaylee, that's great. So how do folks find you? Like if people are looking for you, how do they find you? How do they get a hold of you? How do they help? Where can they send their cash? Because look, we need inspirational people like you up there.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thankfully, I am the only Kaylee that has ever run for Congress in America. So it is really, really easy. Yeah, there's none others. So Kayle for Congress, all spelled out. KayleeForCongress.com is our website. KayleeForCongress@gmail is our email. And you can find us on all social media platforms. Have a really amazing small team. So if you message me through the website or social media, that goes straight to us. We're actually about to launch statewide volunteer efforts, and we have volunteers from New York, Texas, Florida, California, all over the country who find the work that we're doing really important. So you can sign up. We're having a statewide volunteer launch on Zoom April 2nd. To write postcards or even just write letters to the editor, or even just share social media posts or videos. All of those things really help a grassroots campaign. And it's going to be really important because I have a primary opponent for the very first time, a much older gentleman at Meridian. So we're going to need all the help that we can get.
When is your primary?
It is May 19th.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, anyone who's watched this has to be impressed with you. I certainly am. And I looked at your website, and it is probably the most comprehensive I've seen in terms of you stating your position on every key issue. So, and I admire that. I mean, you're not hiding behind, some, trying to be evasive or, not really stating where you stand on things. And, if people want to see someone like Kaylee in Congress, it doesn't really matter. It would be good for people in Montana if you were in Congress, right? I mean, the way you're going to fight for the things that we care about here too. So, it seems to me like she's somebody that we should support.
I think we should. I mean, only Kaylee in Congress. You know, how can you go wrong there? Kaylee Peterson, arguably the bravest and most inspirational woman in Idaho politics. We appreciate you calling into the Beer Buds and Big Sky podcast. We look forward to touching base with you as the campaign progresses. Any other parting words you want to give to us?
Well, let me just say, 100,000 miles on her car.
100,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of gas. So
I drive a Toyota RAV4 hybrid, so it only costs me like $35 to get from one end of the state
yeah, but the
to
hybrid
the other.
only gives you like 25 miles of on the electric, right? And then you kick over to the gas. I mean, it's
But
still
I
an
get like
efficient vehicle.
35 to 40 miles per gallon.
Okay,
And so I
okay.
get amazing. I couldn't have done it without my Toyota, I have to say. We named her Betty White. She's almost as big of a part of the campaign as I am. But I appreciate that. And the last thing I'll say is we got to get you guys over that Montana border. I got to take you to the Seven Devils Saloon in Riggins, Idaho. And we'll have to do a combo show.
That's perfect. The boys aren't here, so we're happy to go. The three of
we'll
us.
speak for them.
We'll speak for this. Look, I'm hearing that $35 gets Betty White across the state of Montana, folks. So pony up. Thank you so much, Kaylee Peterson.
Thank you for having me. Have a great night, guys.
You as
You too.
well.
Thank you.
Boy, she's an inspiration, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just a delight and smart.
Smart,
Yeah.
articulate. You know, her debate experience, you can just see it comes through. I mean, I can't imagine, you know, her opponents having to sit down and debate her because she has such a grasp of all the issues.
Right.
And, yeah.
Well, her opponent doesn't show up.
Well,
Yeah, she's
that's
debating.
probably why.
Yeah,
you know.
no, I probably wouldn't show up.
I mean, at
either.
some point, we got to get tired of that, right? I mean, people that are supposed to represent us don't even show up to interact with the constituents.
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen Danes have a live in-person town hall. Ever.
No.
Ever.
Not that I'm aware of.
No. And then we've seen Zinke maybe once when he was campaigning, but after that, boy, he's just stuck in D.C. and, you know, playing that little game. And
So I was going to hop on earlier and kind of spaced it with everything, but I was in Idaho last week driving through, and I saw two cars, and I even stopped in at Kellogg, and there was a car with her bumper sticker. So
nice.
Oh, good. Good.
Why are you stopping in Kellogg? What's in Kellogg? They got a brewery there?
Yeah, they got a brewery. Yep, exactly. Yep. I got it. I met a guy that he was something else. Well, he's going to come on, friend of the pod. He might be a spook, so it should be interesting.
Friend of the pod. Is he? He's looking.
Oh, who's this
awful
guy? Who's this motherfucker?
Hey.
Wow.
How's everybody
Somebody from
doing?
Mar-a-Lago.
I don't know why it says Warren. I can't change it.
That's it. Are you in Mar-a-Lago there?
Yeah, I'm just a little bit of south of Mar-a-Lago. Key Largo. It rhymes.
Yeah.
That
Montego,
district-
baby.
That district went blue, didn't it? You went down there and voted and got that.
Right, oh yeah. Vote early, vote often. I voted about 7 times in that election.
All mail-in, I hope.
Yeah, right. But I'm just hanging out here by the pool. If I can figure out how to turn my camera around. Yeah, just hanging out.
Wow.
No one's up here.
God, what time is
I
it?
know.
Late at
Where is
night.
everybody?
When's the wedding?
So the wedding is Saturday. So we were just
Okay.
down at a little bar near the water watching the basketball games. It really is it's kind of crazy that you can get on a plane in Montana and in a few hours you're in 90 degrees, like looking at the ocean. It's pretty wild.
It turned pretty
But what
green
have
up here too.
you guys been talking about tonight? What have I missed?
Kaylee Peterson, the most inspirational, hardest working woman in Idaho politics.
She's going to need it.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about how excited I am that the Dow is down to 46,000. So,
Oof.
you know, Pam Bondi said that at 50,000, we shouldn't even be talking about Epstein. But, you know, when at the
46
end of
we should.
at the end of the December of 2024, it was at 42,000, and
Right.
Bondi and Cash Patel and Bongino and everyone was all about the Epstein files. So at 42, they were about it. 50, I guess they're not. So 46, we got to be getting. I mean, at some point, they're going to actually have to talk about the Epstein files
You're right.
to distract us from the stock market.
Yeah, right.
We're going to have to, eventually, I think, what is it, 45,000 when we start prosecuting pedophiles? I don't know. I'm not the Attorney General.
I'm not exactly sure what the scale is, but we got to be getting close. Because, I mean, even Biden could have gotten it to 46,000 by now.
Right. Well, the stock market's tanking, The stock market's tanking, and these gas prices are creeping up on us faster than Trump on a 12-year-old.
That's brutal. That's brutal.
Oh.
You say that in Mar-a-Lago? I mean, that's dangerous to say that there.
Yeah.
Did you fly?
I know, I got to
Trump
look over my
International?
shoulder. I'm somehow in a place that's more red than Flathead County. Well, not anymore, actually, after that election.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, I thought maybe you were down there for getting ready for the Cuba invasion.
Oh, the Viva la Revolucion.
Yeah.
God, poor Cuba. Man, we are just putting those people through the ringer.
Yeah. Yeah.
We cut off all their oil.
Right.
We are just, fucked with all their electricity. Power goes out for days at a time.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It's just brutal.
We're still
Yeah, I
mad
feel
at
for
him.
the Cubans.
We've been mad at him ever since they stopped letting us go down there on vacation. Everything went to hell.
I know, right? Kennedy hit the embargo and then bought a bunch of Cuban cigars, and they still hate him to this day.
At least we got Marco Rubio out of it.
Yeah, little Marco. Him and his, what does he have, 2 or 3 secret families? I lost count.
I don't know. Everything I think a little Marco now, and suddenly I think a little Aaron too. But the boots, little Marco and his shoes, I can't get that image out of my head. It's like, and knowing the backstory, you were talking about that the president actually bought 12 or 10 pairs of the identical size shoes that everyone wore.
Right. The Mad King. No one can say no to the Mad King. God, it's hilarious. Yeah. Did you guys already talk about old Chuck Norris?
No, we've been waiting to talk about Chuck.
Oh, yeah, old Chuck died. Poor Chuck. He was 86 years old. It's kind of a secret, and no one really knows how he died. They just said he was a medical emergency. I heard he died during a transgender bottom surgery at the Stephen Quinnell Memorial Hospital, but that's unconfirmed. That's just a rumor. But I did hear that.
He's not going to think that's funny. He's going to be like.
He will not think that's funny. I know.
He might like that there's a memorial hospital named after him. I mean, that's impressive.
I'm going to be in big trouble.
Yes. There's going to be lots of chats and not funny, and I don't know.
I also did hear that, on his deathbed, Chuck Norris received the light of Islam. He unhesitatingly recited the Shahada, and that he looks down from the Ummah in the gardens of Jannah. They say his last words were, "Truly there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet." So, good for Chuck for seeing the light.
Well, do we react to that?
I think you can. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to react to it.
No, but I really do love Chuck Norris. He was Invasion USA. If you haven't seen Invasion USA, it is one of the craziest, most right-wing, those great right-wing action movies from the 80s. I mean, he was one of my favorites. He's right up there with Charles Bronson and Death Wish 3, also insane. But Invasion USA, it's one of the most hilarious, psychotically nasty and evil right-wing action movies. There's always talks about Chuck Norris and his politics. I would say in many ways, Chuck Norris was the American Brigitte Bardot. If you guys know who Brigitte Bardot was.
Oh, yeah.
Right, she was the famous French actress who, was overshadowed by her politics, when she died. So, you could say, though, Chuck's legacy was tainted by his far-right politics. You can't deny that he was a hot fucking piece of ass.
There's no denying it.
I just wanted, are there any left-wing action movies?
Not really, because they take all the guns away. But, Chuck holds a special place in my heart because, especially with all this AI stuff happening right now, Chuck made movies for people who will never lose their job to AI. Because AI can't get under a car and saw out a catalytic converter. But, we had those F-35s that got destroyed over in Iran. You know, the Diego Garcia Island got targeted by Iranian missiles.
Right.
The Strait of Hormuz is still closed. Chuck Norris is dead. Man, these mega wins just keep piling up and up and up.
They must be proud. So proud.
God.
What a mess.
But I wanted to hop on and see how things were going and give my thoughts on Chuck. But
How many
I'm gonna
shrimp
go
have you
to-
eaten?
Yeah, let's tell us about the food.
oh, dude, I had a big old pile of shrimp today for lunch. We stopped at this place called Twisted Shrimpies. It was great. We went down. We're in Key Largo right now. We went down to Isla Morada, just another island in the chain of islands down here in the Keys. And you can feed the tarpons. They give you a bucket of fish. You hold it above the water. They jump up and grab them. Great fun. Fucking pelicans everywhere. Just a bloodbath.
I like the iguana meat, the chicken of the trees. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah. Who knew? Yeah, the chicken of the trees. I did not know that. I've never had iguana. But, yeah, apparently, like you said, at the last freeze, they shoveled them out by the truckload.
Yeah, that's it. Went down to the factory and canned them up.
Yeah, it's an interesting place down here in South Florida. We'll get Steve down here someday. We'll see. He's got to heal from his surgery.
Yeah. He's at the right place.
Yeah, there's supposed to be, there's supposed to be a grotto around here somewhere. I don't know. This is the adult pool. It closes at like 11. I don't really know where I'm going. We were just watching all the basketball games, and
Well,
it's pretty crazy.
If that
Oh, there
Secret
it is.
Service starts coming around the corner, we know where you are.
Yeah. Yeah, here it is. Here's the grotto.
Look at
Yeah.
that. Huh? Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
There's all your family.
Oh, yeah, they're all in there. So I'm going to go join them, but I wanted to check in with you guys, make sure that things are still going strong. I know we're in good hands.
No, we appreciate you checking in. We need all the assistance we can get.
All right, I'll see you guys. If they let me back on the plane, I'll come back to Montana, but I can make no promises.
Just go 5 hours early to the airport.
Oh, I heard they solved that today.
And don't be a smartass.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, it's might be my own. I might dig my own grave, but. All right, well, I'll see you guys. Take
All right,
care.
Good luck.
Bye.
Oh, goodness.
Kevin, you need a little snare drum or something to just, after every.
We're working on it. We're working on
Okay.
it. Yeah.
It's a work in progress. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I kind of liked all those Chuck Norris stories. I guess the Q-Man's not going to call in, and Ed must be winning too much money at the slot machines to bother us or something. I don't know. He said he was up last time I talked to him.
Who, Ed?
Yeah.
Well, he might. I don't know. Should we try and zoom him in too? No, I'm good.
Okay, that was that. Yeah. So I don't know, John. What do you think? What's happening in your world of this thing? What do you think is happening in Montana politics?
Well, I mean, we talked earlier about how, we've got 4 really strong candidates here in the Western District, and it's exciting because one of the things we maybe didn't really get to talk to Kaylee about was, this district I think is winnable.
It is.
Yeah. And
I think it's Democrats to lose.
I'm happy to hear you say that. I don't know if I'd quite go that far, but I definitely think it's winnable.
Well, just looking at what happened nationwide with race after race after race.
And when you look at even just the turnout in the Texas primary, for example, I mean, the number of Democrats that were motivated enough to get out and vote in the primary.
Yeah.
So I'm encouraged by that. I'm really encouraged by the, I went down to the Mansfield Metcalf dinner and talked to a lot of people who were
It was like 800
running.
people there or something.
Yeah. And, I heard somebody say that, well, the Democrats got a bunch of people to run and they kind of strong-armed people because they wanted to have a Democrat on the ballot. But
Well, they didn't think Republicans did that.
Well, in some cases, you could see it as a completely lost cause. But the people that I talked to a person were, first-time runners saying, I just had to get up and do something.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just not going to stand by. I'm not going to look my kids or grandkids in the eye and say, I didn't do anything. So they're running because they feel like they want to, make a change to, the current path that we're on. And I mean, we're talking about, school teachers, nurses, a ranch manager from outside of Shodo, a rancher from, halfway between Havre and the Canadian border. I mean, these aren't just people that came out of some, poli-sci program and decided to run. I mean, these are just regular people.
These are real people
who said, enough is enough, and, if somebody's got to do something about it, and that person will be me. So,
and it's so the opposite of what's happening on the Republican side, where you got Duke Daines anointing Kurt Hu, and you got Vice Zinke anointing Lil Aaron, and they're trying to bypass the entire primary. They've already announced that they got like millions of dollars in dark money for the candidates to kind of like fund their campaigns. And it's so different. I mean, I think of like Russ Cleveland, we talked earlier, started his campaign like 13 or 14 months ago.
Right.
And how different the politics was 13 or 14 months ago when he got into the race, and how, he's been to all these places, and how politics has been evolving this whole time. And so many other candidates got into the race throughout the system too, and working guys.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, a lot of people that are in it now are in it because of what's happened over the 13 or 14 months, right? I mean, and some people, I'll have a conversation with people and they'll say, well, I don't know, can we really win this or that? And I think, if we continue on the path that we're on,
right,
where something major happens every day, and every day something, I mean, Trump saying about Mueller, who is a Vietnam, decorated Vietnam veteran who served as director of FBI under Democrat and Republican administration. I mean, who's more American than Robert Mueller? And he says, I'm glad he's dead.
I know, it's a terrible thing.
I mean, and so little things like that, I mean, that don't hardly get the news, but if it's some of those penetrate with people, people have to be getting fed up with this.
Well, I think they are. And when I look around town, you used to see all these MAGA hats on everybody's head. You don't see those anymore.
Right,
you don't see very many of the trucks with the, 13-star flags driving around, that kind of stuff. You don't see that anymore. People can't afford to roll coal, but when you drive by, because fuel's so damn expensive.
Well, I mean, I drive an EV, which now I'm like, I mean, I was kind of questioning that decision a while ago, but now I'm, it's great again. I haven't been coal rolled in a while, but one of the things I was going to say that makes that, if you want, like, I don't know, Kevin, if you ever want any happy news on here, but
happy news
or happy, takes on things. But I drive by this truck on a regular basis that has here in town that has all the decals on the back, the Trump train and all this stuff. And it used to make me like my blood boil. Now it just makes me laugh.
That's fun.
Because if you really are still on that train, I mean, it's just. I mean, it's funny. You're
just part of the cult.
You're just part of the cult. I mean, it's just what else can you say?
Well, I mean, look what's happening nationwide. The chaos, the never-ending chaos. People can't afford their rent, insurance. Now suddenly we're spending $200 billion bombing Iran. The birthplace of civilization. Kind of stuff. And you gotta think that people are like, I didn't sign up for this chaos. How did we get here? And they're trying to figure out how to get out of it too.
Right.
Because I think by and large Americans are decent people.
Yeah.
Some of them, sometimes we make mistakes and we go down the wrong road and we got to retract and we got to try to figure out how to get out of it. But nobody wants this chaos.
It is just chaos. And you mentioned the, sending, was it 40 billion to Argentina. I mean, what is that about?
I don't know. It's the same thing. Yeah. I know some of these eastern Montana farmers, and they are just livid at what's happening at the price of fertilizer right now.
Yeah. Well, and now they're diesel fuel too.
Oh, the diesel fuel, and diesel's probably up $1.50. And that's a lot.
Yeah.
And we haven't even seen our increases on our end yet.
Yeah.
They're coming.
Oh, yeah. They're definitely coming. And I don't know. I don't think people realize how, like the Strait of Hormuz, they think that it's this wide channel. I mean, it's that the widest portion or the narrowest portion is 30 miles wide, but the shipping lane is only 2 miles. And so you only got this 2-mile channel to get through there. And they got, 10,000 oil tankers trying to get through there. Only 100 of them can get through in a day. Now they're 2 a day. And the only ones that are going through are the ones that have been giving the Iranian government money.
Yeah.
And insurance companies are dumping all the insurance that they have on these tankers. And they say, nope, go around the Cape, go around Africa if you want to get your oil there. And, we got to remember that the Suez Canal is the only other way through that neck of the woods. And at the bottom of the canal is where Yemen is. And, there's a lot of angry people there, too. And if they shut off both those canals, we're in a world of hurt because that's like a third of the world's oil going through there.
Yeah.
It's just nuts.
On the other hand, when you think about it, and I know they say oil is a global commodity, right? But we produce more oil than we use in this country, and we refine more oil than we use in this country. Why are our oil prices going up? I mean, there's a bunch of people in Houston making a shitload of money, right?
Yeah.
Because nothing really changed in terms of the cost to produce that oil, transport that oil, refine that oil. It's just that they have this opportunity possibly to sell it at a higher price, and therefore...
Yeah, well, particularly around like the Flathead, right? So you think about where our petrol comes from tar sands, Canada mostly, maybe the Dakotas a little bit, goes down to the Billings refinery, gets refined there, it comes through the Yellowstone pipeline, they pump the diesel, they put a plug in, they pump the gas, they put a plug in, they pump whatever else through there. It comes out in these stations like in Missoula, and then they truck it up here. So we're not getting Middle Eastern oil.
Right.
Our fuel is not coming from the Middle East. But Kevin was talking about it last week a little bit, is, America produces a lot of this different grade oil. Venezuela had the thicker oil. Iran's got that oil that's in the medium, and all these things get combined for our old refineries in the United States that, we haven't upgraded our infrastructure, so we have to have this special mix of oil. And so while we might be the world's biggest producer, we can't use all our own oil.
Okay.
So, John, if you were running Waste Management right now and your diesel prices are going up, what would you have done when you were operating that? Just raise everybody else's rates and keep rolling?
Well, for the most part, yeah, you pass it through. I mean, you put a fuel surcharge in there. One of the things that I did when I was there was put a fuel hedging program into place, which is, we don't have time now to talk about for me to explain that to you. But I mean, what we were trying to do was say that if you entered into, if you bid on a municipal contract, for example, the company could hedge the fuel exposure so that the municipality would never see an increase over like a 5-year period. So there are ways to address it, but if you try to address it at a time like this, you're a little bit late. So yeah, but that's a whole nother discussion about selling, buying and selling calls and puts and doing swaps and collars and swaptions and
So what model EV did you get?
The Ford Mustang.
Oh, that thing's got some torque.
Oh, it's fun to drive.
I bet it is.
Yeah, it's great.
Automatic?
Well, it's an EV, so it has no transmission.
They never do that stick shift kind of stuff on the EVs.
No, you just step on it and it goes.
Yeah. And
but unfortunately, during my campaign trying to get from point A to point B a few times, I ended up with a few speeding tickets. So I am limited by cruise control now, even in the wide open spaces.
Missing those reasonable and prudent speed limits.
I know. That would have been wonderful because the car is capable of hauling. Of course, you get up in speeds like that and you hurt your range, and then you get into eastern Montana and you're in big trouble. So,
So you charge at home, or was it like $15 a day or something
Yeah,
to charge?
I don't even, it varies so much
Yeah.
because of how much I charge. But yeah, I charge it at home. I mean, I go down to Missoula and I'll top it off a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's fun to drive.
I got a feeling a lot of people might be looking at that. I don't know. Too bad the feds took away some of those credits to make them a little bit more affordable. There was like $7,500 tax credits for a while on EVs and all that stuff.
Well, you go to a place, you go to California or Arizona, and the number of Teslas in particular.
Is that right?
And you just think about if all of those vehicles were burning fuel,
Yeah.
we would be in a worse position now than we are. So
Yeah.
I wish if I could fit the words on a bumper sticker, me driving an EV is actually saving you money on gas.
Is that right?
I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, that's a lot of words on a bumper
That's
sticker.
a lot of words. I don't know.
Well, but I just love it that we're going to pay France now $1 billion to stop putting the windmills off of Massachusetts and Maine. So,
Yeah.
That makes, because we're in an oil crisis, but we're going to pay somebody to take away their wind. Yeah.
That makes no
perfect
sense. It's just wacky. I don't
It's
know.
good business. It's good business. Come on, ask Trump.
I don't know. Montana's like solar power and energy independence. I mean, I put panels on the farm this year, put batteries and inverters.
Every
and all
single
that
one of my
stuff.
ranch buddies on the east side have panels. Every single one.
They work absolutely fantastic. So much different than they were 40 years ago when I was in college studying some of that stuff. I mean, just a world of difference. And how far we've come and how far we could actually go with some more innovation.
Oh yeah. No, it's the backlash on all the green energy technologies is so short-sighted.
Oh, and it's just silly too.
Yeah, it's just silly.
It's
completely
all
agree.
about consolidation.
I mean,
of the
things
oil
like
industry.
wind power here in Montana's been, non-controversial.
Well, except for the crazy mountains.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's, Judith Basin's been there for a long time. I
Yeah.
mean, it's, there's a lot of.
Yeah.
What do you think about some of the initiatives that are that are potentially on the ballot?
I don't know. I see the Republicans have several tax cap initiatives that are on the ballot or not on the ballot, but they're gathering signatures for it. And I wish
Property taxes,
and I wish the Democrats would at least talk about some of that stuff, because I think there's some real life consequences that people are facing with their taxes. So I see some of those initiatives actually might get legs, because I think homeowners and small business owners are kind of ticked off that locals have to pay more now for schools and the state is paying less. It used to be when I was in the legislature, the state paid more. And every time the Republicans come into power, they seems like, we're going to pull back on the state money and make the homeowners at local level pay more. And that's kind of what's happening. They explain it all these different ways, but that's what they're doing.
But if you ask Arian Flint, he's the one that'll tell you that it's because of the local districts.
Yeah.
It's your hometown that's screwing you.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, and I don't know what else is on the ballot. I mean, we got the dark money signature thing coming on. I think it's a great step forward. I think we should sign it. I think we should let the people vote on it at the ballot. I think the amount of money that's come into politics is just obscene.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And the fact that you don't know where it's coming from. You don't know if it's coming from Switzerland. And it's in every crevice of our politics now. It's at the local planning level. It's full of dark money from different constituency groups. It's at how property taxes are figured out. It's happening at the lobbying. It's everywhere, and no one knows where it's coming from. We know a few of the billionaires, but it's a mess.
Yeah, well, I mean, we really need to overturn Citizens United.
Wouldn't
and
that
get
be
back.
something?
I mean,
Yeah,
but even so, the initiative that is, I don't know if they have the signatures to get it on the
They're
ballot.
starting to get the
Okay,
six.
but that will at least be a step towards, limiting the ability of corporations anyway to put money into the campaigns.
Yeah, and and there's a lot of C4 corporations and that kind of stuff, they'll figure out different ways to skirt it. I mean, they always have money talks and shit goes to the dump, the kind of stuff, But I think that we have to take our democracy back, and I think that this money is kind of clouding what's happening, and the amount of mailers that come into people's houses, the amount of nonsense on the TV talking about stuff, none of that stuff really matters to folks. They're just kind of like throwing it out, and dark money is just. And even in like the Republican primaries now, you see dark money fighting dark money. Americans for Prosperity is fighting the conservatives from Montana Pact, and the Freedom Caucus is in there, and they're all just battling it out, trying to say, we're the real Republicans, we're the real Republicans. And, it's just, I don't know, a lot of grudges.
What do you think about Dave Fern's favorite the state or the Montana Chamber of Commerce coming out against the dark money? They want the dark money.
They want the dark money.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah, no, they are.
They're helping out the consumers, right? Oh, and the business owners? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, they like the status quo, they got it pretty good. They're running the game. They know which levers to pull. They know which campaigns to fund, and, there's a lot of consultants in Montana, and they all work with these consultants, and the consultants really don't care if it's the Democrats or the Republicans that win, because the consultants just get paid. They all have their house payments and their car payments and all that kind of stuff, and I don't know. It's the same crowd. I knew it would be these crowd that would come out against the dark money stuff. I mean, it's always the chamber. I mean, the chamber really is the darkest of the dark money these days. So,
the other thing is the nonpartisan judiciary. Isn't there? There's an initiative on that also. I don't know where that stands in terms of getting signatures.
Have you ever heard anybody that say, I want justice to be more partisan?
I have not, but
yeah. I've never heard that. And so the whole thing is just wacky to me. I mean, I get that the insiders want to make it so simple for folks that they don't have to think about anything besides, I'm on the R team or I'm on the D team. I get that part, and it makes politics easier for them, and maybe they win more races that way. But I mean, my goodness, everybody knows, like the Supreme Court Justice, what's named the District Court guy, Dan Wilson. Everybody knows he's a Republican.
Well,
this is like a secret.
Not everybody. I mean, there's, you and I, and probably a lot of the people we talk to, but most of the voters are.
They're confused.
They don't pay enough attention. I mean, I'm not even saying that critically. They might have too much to do, but I mean, they I would say most people don't know.
Yeah.
So if the Republicans could get it so that it was partisan and there was an R after his name,
right,
there's going to be a lot of people who just say, well, that's the R. I mean, right now they look and they wouldn't know, but hopefully they would do some research. One of the things I wanted to ask Kaylee about was she had on her website that she was endorsed by the Idaho Statesman.
Okay.
And but when I clicked on it, I didn't see it wasn't really a clickable thing. It was just a list.
Yeah.
And so, because I think that's one of the things that is really unfortunate about what's happened in this state, and probably this country, where newspapers that used to do kind of an objective analysis of candidates and weigh in and just say, this is who, they don't do. I don't know of a single paper in Montana that does that anymore.
And they should do it. I don't know. I mean, I was also reading the Post this morning. My subscription still goes for another month before they dump me or I dump them. But their editorial this week was about, or today was about, Bernie Sanders is wrong about data centers. And I'm thinking, well, gosh, who owns the Washington Post? Oh, yeah, it's that Amazon guy that probably likes data centers. And so
Really, you're making that link?
I don't know.
think that's.
It seems like a stretch. Come on.
Come on. Yeah, it seems like a stretch. But I do remember the days where, like, the Whitefish Pilot used to endorse. You know, they would actually endorse a legislative candidate. They don't do that anymore.
Right.
You know, I think they should. The local rags, the weekly rags would do well doing that kind of stuff. But going back to what you were talking about with the partisan judges, I was thinking when you were talking an R behind their name and a D behind their name, I would think that, you know, if you got yourself in trouble, somebody like, you know, TJ got himself in trouble or something like that, that he would be like, I would like to go to the D judge. That R judge looks like a real ass, and I'm probably going to go to the barracks with him. The D judge might give me some community service, so let me go to the D judge. And so maybe the guy in trouble should get the different.
You're right. You're right. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
I'm in. Yeah.
My late father-in-law was a circuit court judge in Northwest Arkansas, and he was just a huge guy, ex-Marine, you know, and he always a big wad of tobacco under his lip, you know, and but he was very liberal, and he would say, you know, you just can't trust the police. They'll come in here, they'll be trumping up charges. I mean, he was, you know, so sometimes they fool you, but yeah, no, that's a great point.
I don't know. I mean, I want justice to be blind. I really do. I want it to be balanced. I want it to be even. I want, you know, like the Epstein victims to find justice, you know. I don't want the billionaires just to be able to run roughshod over our system, you know, and that, you know, that's a long way away still. I mean, I still remember when I was in Helena, you know, people would say the Pledge of Allegiance at the end, they would say, and justice for all. And then a bunch of guys at the end, I would say, and someday. You know, we're just waiting for that full justice to come our way because it's an imperfect nation and we're trying to do better, and we're kind of in this chaotic moment in our history. And, you know, a lot of us are hoping, and I think it is a lot of us that are hoping that change is coming. You know, that something's going to move along and, you know, right the ship a little bit.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it takes the chaos that we're currently living through to you know, we just want to right the ship, right? Not swing back and forth. And it's unfortunate that it got to the point that it's at.
Yeah, but here we are.
So before we go, I got a question for both of you guys. So I was in 6th grade on 9/11. So I remember the whole I remember everything about it. But how does it feel?
Wait a second. How many consecutive years were you in 6th grade on September 11th?
Well, we don't need to talk about that.
What was that instructor's name?
Yeah. Well, it was Mark Schaefer, so everybody knows. Yeah. But so being a voter that lived through that and then lived through the debacle of Iraq, and then seeing this whole debacle go again, and you know everybody's just reaping the benefits of it. Like, is this just something that's going to happen every 20 years for the rest of eternity because it can?
Are you saying that Americans forget?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Because when I graduated, it was these were war criminals.
Yeah.
And we're never going to let that happen again.
Yep.
Well, holy fuck! Who would have thought that we'd rather have those war criminals? You know what I mean? Like.
No, yeah. And 20 years seems like a stretch for us to forget. I mean, we forgot about, you know, January 6th and the attacks on the Capitol. It just took us, 4 years to forget about that. And, you know, maybe we do kind of just keep perpetuating this warmongering and, you know, I don't know. If they would just give us our oil, everything would be better and we wouldn't have to have so many wars.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't, you know, it's, you know, one of the things I have in my possession is a letter I got back from my senator when I was living in Illinois after writing to him saying this talk about invading Iraq just is makes absolutely no sense. And Republican senator wrote back and said, yeah, no, we got to do it and everything. So I have a little proof that I knew that was a mistake at the time. I mean, I understand the mood of the country after 9/11, but invading Iraq was not the right thing to do. And
yeah, Paul Wellstone saw it, right? He thought it was a bad idea. I think he was like the only guy in Congress to vote against it, right?
Yeah. It was just, and it proved to be a bad idea. I mean, I don't know if you could sit here today and say, did we accomplish anything? And, I just don't think that, what is going to happen in Iran? I mean, even if we just end it now, I mean, what
well, I don't think
we've spent.
We can't alone
billions.
decide to end it. I mean, those guys that got bombed might have a grudge for a decade.
Yeah, I mean, and just the people living there. I mean, we're talking about massive, refugees.
90 million people.
Yeah, we're talking about like almost another Gaza, where people are cut off from any sort of standard of living at all. I mean, it just, and what did that do for us? I don't know. I mean, I've listened to some discussions about the JCPOA, the agreement that Obama negotiated, and it wasn't perfect, but there was quite a bit in there that would have, at least for a period of time, and a period of time that would have allowed for more negotiation. And that, in my view, that's what we have to do. And we have to do it in a way where the entire world is aligned, or this, at least our allies are aligned on making sure that we maintain peace in the world, and we've completely disrupted that.
Oh yeah.
We've, we had the opportunity to push back on Russia and send the message that no, you can't just invade another country, and we've failed to send that message, and now we've lost all credibility. I mean, if China wants to go in and take Taiwan, what basis would we have for saying no, or doing anything? I mean, certainly we want access to the chip manufacturing in Taiwan, but we don't have any moral grounds any longer to just say you can't attack another country just because you want to. So it's unbelievable, Kevin, back to your question, that we didn't learn anything about how to deal with these issues any better than we did back in Iraq.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, what do you got for us before you take off? What do you got for the listeners?
Closing thoughts? I don't know. I was impressed by Kaylee Peterson. I'm happy that the boys are getting their leather and their chains and their whips in order, and that the real Q is getting treatment. That's good. Haven't heard from Ed, but I'm sure he's winning. And Ryan has got to stay out of Mar-a-Lago, as far as I can tell, because they're going to take him down.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us through another hour of bullshit. Big thank you to Kaylee Peterson for joining us tonight. We appreciate her stepping into the chaos with us. We'll keep things rolling next week, so stay tuned. Before the season ends, swing back to the Tamarack Ski Shop and take advantage of the spring conditions. Make sure to like, subscribe, and send us some beer money. Until next time, we'll have Gunny on the street zooming in, so that'll be a good time. Steve's best friend so far. And as always, same beer time, same bud channel.